detailing why Kerr chose to stay with the Warriors. And in the profile, Kerr told Thompson that 3 years ago, to entertain himself in press conferences, Kerr worked phrases from Taylor Swift's song All Too Well into his interview answers. Over the course of the full season, Kerr was able to sneak all of the song's lyrics into press conferences. Stephen A., well, I know you don't know all the words to All Too Well, and I want to know, was it the 10-minute version or the shorter version? What song could you sneak into your rants? What song could you get like lyrics into your rants here on First Take?
Well, me personally, I think about Jay-Z. Already Home is one of my favorites. Really, the fact is we not in the same bracket, not in the same league, don't shoot at the same basket, don't pay the same taxes. Stuff like that. That's kind of stuff I listen to and I incorporate in my own way in the First Take. I love Taylor Swift, but I got a different flavor.
That's totally fine. So maybe we can try and work in some of those lyrics here out throughout the rest of the year. All right, before we say goodbye, let's really quick get a game pick. Let's start with Pistons-Cavs. One word. Go ahead, Kenny. Pistons-Cavs.
I'm going with, we're going to see a Game 7.
Okay.
Game 7.
Agree.
Spurs, T-Wolves?
Spurs, close it out.
I think so. I'm with my brother from Queens. Queens in the building.
Welcome back to First Take. Daryl Morey out as president of basketball operations with the 76ers. Josh Harris announced on Tuesday. Bob Myers, who was an executive with the Warriors and our colleague here at ESPN, will lead the search for the new head executive in Philly. Nick Nurse will remain the head coach. This comes days after the Sixers were swept by the Knicks in the Eastern Conference semifinals. The problem with the Sixers is their contract obligations. Next season, Philly will have to pay their stars and pay them a lot of money. They are the only team next season that will owe over $40 million to 3 players, not 1, not 2, 3 players on their roster. So given the contract structure and their struggles, should Tyrese Maxey want out of Philadelphia now?
You know what? I think that is something that he needs to strongly consider. It's got to be deflating and disappointing. He led the league in minutes this year, 38 minutes a game. He was the 5th leading scorer, averaging over 27 a game. The guy's a spectacular player. And Daryl Morey put him in a pinch. There's no way around it. Daryl Morey, listen, I like Daryl Morey. I respect him. But he's been too addicted to analytics for too long. And I've told y'all this story before, and I'm going to say it again. I know it's been uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable for people to hear. Damn that. We got to keep it a buck. Okay, here's the deal. Years ago, when they lost a playoff game, I knew that Daryl Morey was on his way. I knew it would be a matter of days before that man was gone. When he walked up to Tillman Fertitta with a bunch of stats, pointing out what they had did right and said, so you see, we really won. I knew it was over. Now, y'all figure out how I know that story. You understand? I ain't asking, I ain't guessing. I'm telling you. That's what happened, okay? The man is addicted to his analytics. 5 of the 6 years he's in Philadelphia, they make the playoffs. What does it matter? They never get to a conference finals. I know injuries had something to do with it, but Daryl Morey historically has leaned on stars. And a lot of people have been negligent when it comes to all the ancillary pieces around those stars that can help elevate you. The true winners that have won championships, they do it a bit differently. Sam Presti, for example, which is why he's the greatest executive in the sport right now. Having said all of that, you Bob Myers, he ain't gonna like this. This is our buddy. We worked on NBA Countdown. I got my mad love for my man Bob Myers. He gonna get mad. I don't give a damn. Man, hell with all this nonsense, this talk about you gonna find somebody else. You already have who you need. You leave Elton Brand as your general manager. You handle the decision making as president of basketball operations. Just because you're the president of this new group that he's got going on does not mean that you're not president of sports for Harris Blitzer Sports and Entertainment. Damn it. Make part of your role finalizing the decisions for the 76ers. That's all. You leave the legwork to the GM you already have in place in Elton Brand, who knows a thing or two about basketball and knows what he's doing. He just answers to you. And you say yay or nay. We have executives in every industry allocating responsibilities to other people. And then when it's time for the decision to be made, you bring all the intel to them and they make the call. That's all Bob Myers has to do here. Josh Harris, don't listen to Bob Myers. Bob Myers, I don't give a damn. He got the Commanders. And Lord knows what else Harris has, the billionaire that he is. I do know this. He don't have a championship on an NBA level. Bob Myers got 4 of them. Why the hell are you going to look for somebody else? You do it. You make the call. Leave all the legwork to Elton Brand. Bring in whoever you want to along with Elton Brand and make sure that the decision comes through you, because that will entice Tyrese Maxey to say, hey, man, this is a good situation here. I'm in a good situation because I got an owner who brought in an executive that knows a thing or two about winning championships. I'm good. But to me, that's what it's going to take. And I don't think that any other kind of decision should be made. The hell with Bob Myers' search. Bob Myers needs to look in the mirror. That's where the search ends. You do it. I ain't telling him to give up the other stuff. Do that too. But there's nobody that needs to be making the decisions about the future of the Philadelphia 76ers over Bob Myers.
So right now it says Bob Myers, president of sports for Harris Blitzer Sports Entertainment, will lead the search for the new executive and will oversee the franchise's basketball department in the interim. So he is overseeing everything.
I'm saying wipe out the interim, Shay. Just stop it. Stop with the interim stuff. Let the city, Philadelphia deserves better. No interim status. You're a 4-time champion. Hell, you mean?
There is one type of move that completely changes how people talk about the Warriors. Not a bench signing, not a veteran minimum gamble, not another shooter who might get hot once every 4 games. I am talking about a move that makes the league look at Golden State and say, wait, are they actually doing this? Tyrese Maxey to the Warriors would be that kind of move. And before anybody twists it, no, this is not confirmed. Maxey is still in Philadelphia. He is not some forgotten player stuck at the end of a bench. He is one of the most important guards in the NBA, a young all-star level scorer, and the exact kind of player teams normally refuse to trade unless the whole building is shaking. But that is why this conversation is so powerful, because if the 76ers ever reach a point where they have to rethink everything, if the Embiid era becomes too expensive, too fragile, too complicated, and if Philly starts asking what the next version of the franchise should look like, every smart team in the league is going to watch Maxey. Golden State should be one of them, not casually, aggressively, because Maxey answers a question the Warriors have been trying to avoid. Who can create real pressure next to Stephen Curry without slowing everything down? That is the key. Golden State does not just need talent. Talent alone does not fix them. They need speed. They need an attack. They need a guard who can get into the paint and force defenders to make bad choices. Curry's gravity is still one of the most powerful weapons in basketball, but even Curry needs help that changes the shape of a possession. Maxey can do that. He can bring the ball up and attack before the defense is set. He can play off Curry because he can shoot. He can play with Curry because he can create. He can punish teams that trap Steph, and he can punish teams that stay home. That is a nightmare equation. And this is where the Warriors angle becomes different from other teams. A lot of franchises would want Maxey to become the whole show. Golden State would not need that immediately. The Warriors would need him to be the second fire, the speed guard, the pressure release, the guy who turns a dead possession into a real possession. That is dangerous because it protects Curry from carrying every emotional swing of the game. It also gives Steve Kerr a very different kind of puzzle piece. Think about the combinations. Curry moving off the ball, Maxey attacking the first gap, Draymond reading the floor, shooters spaced around the action, a defense trying to decide whether to chase the greatest shooter ever or stop one of the fastest guards in the league from getting downhill. That is not easy. That is not comfortable. That is not something the West wants to prepare for in a 7-game series. But now we have to be honest about the cost. This is not a fantasy league button. Maxey is on a major contract. Philadelphia values him. Golden State would have to put serious assets on the table, and that means the conversation gets uncomfortable very quickly. Picks, young players, salary, maybe pieces fans do not want to lose. That is where the debate begins. Is Maxey worth that kind of swing? For me, the answer depends on one thing. Are the Warriors still trying to win with Curry, or are they just trying to look competitive while time runs out? Because those are not the same thing. If the goal is to protect the future at all costs, then you do not chase Maxey. You keep your picks, develop slowly, and accept that the Curry era may fade with dignity. But if the goal is to give Steph another real shot, then you cannot be afraid of big names. You cannot be afraid of paying for the right player. And Maxey is not just a big name. He is the kind of player who fits both timelines. He helps now, and he still matters later. That is rare. Most star trades force you to choose between the present and the future. Maxey is one of the few players who could touch both. That is why this idea should not be dismissed. The Warriors have spent years trying to balance the dynasty, the young core, the luxury tax, the draft picks, and the emotional weight of Steph, Draymond, and everything they built. But the NBA does not reward teams for being sentimental. The NBA rewards teams that know when to strike. And if there is even a small crack in Philadelphia, if there is even a moment where Maxey becomes part of a league-wide conversation, Golden State has to be ready. Not desperate, ready. There is a difference. My opinion, Tyrese Maxey would be one of the cleanest, most dangerous guard fits the Warriors could dream about. Not because he replaces Curry, nobody replaces Curry, but because he gives Curry something he has not had enough of lately. Another player who can scare defenses before Steph has to save the possession. That is the whole story. That is the hook. That is the reason Dub Nation should watch this name closely. So tell me in the comments, would Tyrese Maxey be worth a massive Warriors package deal, or would you protect the future and avoid the risk? Hit like if you think Golden State needs a bold move, and subscribe for more Warriors news, rumors, and real Dub Nation debate.